सुन साथी मेरो कथा, अधिकारका लागि आवाज, परिवर्तनका लागि संकल्प।
हानिकारक परम्परागत रूढिवादी सोच, हिंसा र विभेदले लाखौं बालबालिका, विशेष गरी बालिकाहरूको सम्भावना दबाइरहेको छ यो संसारमा। प्लान इन्टरनेशनल नेपालले सन् 1978 देखि बालबालिकाहरूको पक्षमा आवाज उठाउँदै आएको छ। बाल्यकालदेखि लिएर नेतृत्व विकास र आर्थिक सशक्तिकरणसम्म प्लान इन्टरनेशनल नेपालको यात्राले एउटै कुरा देखाउँछ, हरेक बालिकाले आत्मबलका साथ अगाडि बढ्न पाउनुपर्छ। बालिका, किशोर किशोरी र युवा महिलाहरूका लागि समावेशी, न्यायपूर्ण र सुरक्षित समाज निर्माण गर्नु नै प्लान इन्टरनेशनल नेपालको परिकल्पना हो। यस संस्थाको लक्ष्य भनेको नेपालका हरेक बालिका र युवा महिलाहरूलाई सशक्त बनाउँदै आफ्ना अधिकारहरूको उपयोग गर्न सक्ने बनाई सम्मानका साथ स्वतन्त्रतापूर्वक जीवन जिउन सक्ने बनाउनु हो। यसका लागि प्लान इन्टरनेशनल नेपालले लैङ्गिक रूपान्तरणकारी दृष्टिकोण, मानव अधिकारमुखी दृष्टिकोण, बालबालिका र युवाहरूको एजेन्सी निर्माण, पैरवी र अभियान साथै डिजिटल नवप्रवर्तनलाई प्रोत्साहन गर्दै वातावरणीय संवेदनशीलतालाई प्राथमिकता दिँदछ। यस प्रयासलाई सफल बनाउनका लागि प्लान इन्टरनेशनल नेपालले सिकाइ, नेतृत्व लिने, निर्णय गर्ने र समृद्ध हुने कार्यक्रमगत रणनीतिलाई अवलम्बन गरेको छ। चाहे डिजिटल संसार होस् वा भौतिक संसार होस् वा दुवै ठाउँमा किशोरी र युवा महिलाहरूको सुरक्षा सुनिश्चित गर्दै प्लानले सन् 2028 सम्ममा करिब 7 लाख बालिका, किशोर किशोरी र युवा महिलाहरूलाई प्रत्यक्ष रूपमा र 15 लाखलाई अप्रत्यक्ष रूपमा सहयोग पुर्याउँदै वास्तविक रूपान्तरण ल्याउने महत्त्वकांक्षी लक्ष्य तय गरेको छ। यो केवल संख्या मात्र होइन, यो बाल विवाहको अन्त्यका लागि र जलवायु परिवर्तनका चुनौतीहरूलाई सम्बोधन गर्न परिवार र समुदायहरूलाई एकताबद्ध गर्ने सामूहिक प्रयासको उद्घोष पनि हो। प्लानले युवाहरूको आवाजलाई सधैँ महत्त्व दिएको छ। उनीहरूलाई हाम्रा रणनीतिहरूको केन्द्रमा राखेको छ, किनकि भविष्यका चुनौतीहरूको समाधान युवाहरू र उनीहरूको अविश्वसनीय ऊर्जाबाट मात्र सम्भव छ। यो विशेष पोडकास्ट श्रृङ्खलामा हामी प्लान इन्टरनेशनलको साहस, परिवर्तन र प्रेरणादायी यात्राको बारे छलफल गर्नेछौँ, किनभने जब बालिकाहरू सक्षम हुन्छन् तब मात्र समाज अघि बढ्छ।
Hello, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you, Smarika.
Today, for our very special episode, we have a very special guest. His name is Ram Kishan, and he is the country director of Plan International professionally. But non-professionally, I will let him introduce himself. So who is Ram Kishan as a person?
Yeah, thanks, Smarika. I think it's definitely a very difficult question to ask because sometimes when we look inward, we don't really have all the answers. But let me try and reflect. So I'm a father of two young girls. One is adult now and one is in teenage. For my kids, I am definitely a father, but also someone who cares for them, who is looking up, always a smile on their face, and also they're also caring for me. And having two young girls is so delightful, and I'm really very privileged to have that in my life. For my colleagues, as I work in a professional life, they see me as obviously someone who is supportive, but also sometimes a bit difficult. So I hope I'm not too difficult for my colleagues and try to work along. And then I have friends who also see me as fun-loving guy, whom they would like to connect. And I've had loads of friends that I connect every time, not only in India where I come from, but also globally. So I consider myself to be a global citizen where I can connect with different people and also learn from them and also teach them about my culture.
That's very nice. Actually, I'll tell you who you are for us young people. So for us, you are our biggest advocate. So let's proceed to the questions now. But before that, I just want to ask, how long have you been here in Nepal?
So my journey with Nepal has been on and off. But if I just look at my current period in Nepal, I've been in Nepal for a little over 3 years. So I arrived in Nepal in August 2021 and then started working with Plan in May 2022. So it's been 3 years with Plan International, but I've been in Plan very recently, but I've been in Nepal when there was an earthquake in 2015. So I was here as a relief worker working and looking at the needs of those who were affected with earthquake. And before that also working on climate change, disaster risk reduction issues. So yes, my connection with Nepal is not new. It's been there for many years. And I always say jokingly that Nepal is my second home.
That's such an amazing journey. But now let's talk about PLAN's journey. PLAN International has been working in Nepal for almost 47 years now. And throughout this period, it has worked in partnership with so many agencies and also in close proximity with the government to implement its projects and programs. So we just want to hear your reflection on how the journey of PLAN International Nepal has been so far for this past half a century, and what is your reflection on all the solid and formidable partnerships that you have built over the years?
Yeah, I think it looks a quite long time if you just say half a century. So that looks like we are quite old in Nepal. But I think that also comes with a lot of pride that we take in the work that we have done in Nepal. So PLAN started working, as I said, 47 years back in 1978 with a very modest start in Kathmandu Valley, working with children who were in need of support. As you know, PLAN is a child right organization focusing on girls' rights. So we started with a modest start. But if I look back and say, till now, PLAN has worked in roughly about 50 districts in Nepal out of 77. And our journey has been through different phases. So from a very child sponsorship organization to a more child right-based organization, that transition hasn't been easy. One, obviously at the organization level, but also at different geographies that we have worked in. So PLAN has also worked in Nepal during the conflict. And if I just look back and talk to our colleagues, we also had suffered losses of our staffing. In terms of the program, I think from a very child-centered individual program approach, we have more now community-focused programming, which is looking at the overall life cycle approach for children in need. So looking at the early childhood development needs for children, working with families for their better parenting, working with children when they are at the school age, working for their access to schooling, also working on developing better curriculum, working on teachers training, infrastructure development. But then when they're ready to face the life challenges, we are still with them to work on their skill building, livelihood, and entrepreneurship development. So I would say we have actually looked at the whole life cycle approach. So we're not looking at children are ready to face the challenges at 18, but working beyond 18 to make sure they're ready to face the harsh realities of living in a very difficult time. PLAN has believed that the change can only come in when we have young people and children and their family together with us. We alone cannot do it. So our approach has always been community-based. We had a program which was called Child Center Community Development Program. And from there, we have moved on looking at the areas of global distinctiveness, where we look at the overall approach from the child is conceived till we see that they are ready to be employed or start their own enterprise.
That's truly amazing to hear. We have seen PLAN being highly transformational to a lot of young friends of ours as well. So talking about being transformational, PLAN International Nepal's country strategy of 2023 to 2028 envisions young girls standing strong, enjoying their rights and freedom with dignity. So our young viewers would love to hear about some of the projects PLAN International has been implementing in Nepal to achieve this vision and uplift young girls.
So in terms of the program, I will just go back to our areas of global distinctiveness. And within that, we have a program which is looking at the education, but also skill building for children and young people. And that program is largely focusing on quality education, accessible to all children. So accessibility and quality is two very important cornerstone of our work. We don't want just the education, but we want that to be inclusive, and that need to be transformative and quality education that they can get. Then on the livelihood, we would like to make sure that those are not gender stereotype livelihood that we present. More often we have seen that when you talk about girls' livelihood or young women to find a livelihood, we look at very traditional livelihood options. But PLAN has actually broken those barriers and looked at where girls can be more active in spaces which have not been explored. We had a program in Pokhara, Smarika, where you come from, which was largely to work on hospitality industry and also on the adventure sports, where we train young girls for high altitude rescuers. We work on having them being trained on running travel and tracking agencies, which probably is seen as a main dominated area. Then we also have programs on where we work with young people for building their leadership skills, and program called 𝗦𝘂𝗵𝗁, which is largely focusing on building young people's life skills, training them for the future leader, and also raising issues that are concerning them. How do they raise the issues at family level, community level, but also with the local government? And Nepal, given with the local government structures, it's very important that young people feel that they will be responsible citizens. And then also protection is a very important part of our work. We know young girls and women are at the risk of protection challenges, gender-based violence, making sure the space online and offline is safe for them. So online safety has given the exposure for young people into the cyberspace. We need to make sure that that's safe, and we bring them along with us. But we also want to be a trusted partner for government, and we want to make sure that policies are created and built in the right way, which can help have a very conducive environment for young people and children.
Yes, that's such a diverse range of work areas, and it actually shows in terms of outcome. Just last year, Plan was able to reach 97,000 young girls. So we just want to know, what does this wide reach mean, not just in terms of numbers, but also in terms of outcome and transformation?
Yeah, and that's very important, because sometimes we get stuck with numbers alone. And I think numbers are important, but what are we changing is very important, at least for an organization like Plan. And we believe in transformational changes. We don't believe in just, okay, how many people have we reached? And we might have reached many more. When we say 97,000, we can very confidently say we have changed with their life at all levels. And we are not only looking at children and girls alone outside their society, but it's also a very comprehensive community-driven approach, where we have parents and community leaders on our side. As we are looking at one of the issues that we would like to address is child forced and early marriage, which is quite high. And if you look at data, Nepal is second in South Asia in terms of number of children who are marrying before the age of legal marriage. Our effort is to make sure that we involve all part of the society in our effort to end early forced and child marriage. Government of Nepal has declared that by 2030, it will be eliminated, and we want to be a trusted partner in that. So when I say numbers alone doesn't really count the impact we're creating, it's more the transformation that we bring in, whether I talked about gender transformative livelihood options or working with parents. And when we talk about parenting, it's not only about mothers, but also father has a very important role in parenting. So how we engage fathers in that conversation and the transformation change we want to bring in. So I think we feel very proud of what we have achieved, but I think we have a long way to go. So I don't think we don't rest and be complacent. We would like to really make even greater effort of changing lives of girls and young women.
Indeed, actually, we will be hearing more about how this reach was qualitative from young girls in forthcoming episodes, because our future episodes is all about bringing young girls and letting them talk about their experiences with Plan International. Now, let's move towards a very interesting section of the podcast. Recently, Plan International Nepal observed the celebration of Pride Month in its office. Now, we are going to show you some of the Pride flags on the screen over there, and then you will have to recognize which flag that is. Okay, so let's go.
Quiz, thank you. This one is transgender flag.
Could you tell?
This one is progressive pride flag. And I really feel so connected with this one because this is so inclusive. And this has come a long way, where we used to see things in binary, and this is more inclusive in nature and bring all diversity together. So, yeah.
That's true. So we are all committed to celebrate this month of June as a month of Pride. So one more question for this segment. What is Pride to you, sir?
So Pride to me is believing in yourself and be yourself. What is important that we don't really bind people in our own social and cultural boundaries and let people be what they are. One of the big challenge for someone to really believe in themselves and behave the way they are, it's because of the social and cultural boundaries that has been created. So feeling being pride is really being happy the way you are and enjoy yourself.
That's actually really beautiful. Okay, now let's proceed towards another fun section of the podcast. So Plan recently launched its Unite for Resilience campaign, connecting more young people with climate action. Now we are going to show you some scribblers on the screen, and you're going to have to guess the words.
Carbon. It's resilience.
That's true. That's amazing. Okay. So one more follow-up question for you. How is climate looking to you from where you're sitting?
Being in Nepal, but also being part of a global community, I feel climate change is one of the biggest threats for the existence of our humankind. We know Nepal is not untouched, but Nepal is one of the country which is on the forefront of climate change. We know Himalayas have been affected. We know there have been less and less snow. Water scarcity are really increasing. We see more drought. So for me, climate change is something which is so important of all part of our life that we do. We need to make sure that we address it, and it cannot be done only by single country. So it's a global responsibility. But Nepal and many of developing countries can play a very important role to push those who are polluting the environment. Because climate change is actually been caused because of greenhouse gases. And most of that contribution has not been by developing country or poor countries. That's been by developed country. And they need to step up their actions to mitigate their emissions, but also help countries to adapt to the changes that are coming. So climate change has both sides of it. So one is there are actions which need to be taken on mitigating the emissions, but also it need to look at addressing the adaptation needs, because communities are facing challenges now. I've been to many parts of Nepal. I've been to Jumla and Kalikot, and I talk to farmers who are doing apple cultivation. They tell me that they have less and less production every year. And you go to some parts of Tarai in Nepal, you will see the productivity has gone down, or there are more risk of floods. We saw floods last year where large part of rice cultivation has just gone away. So how do we make sure that we prepare the farmers and the communities to deal with the changes, but also provide finances which are required and technologies which are required. So climate change is the center of the work that we do, and young people have very important role to play. They are not only the one who can speak about it, but they are the one who will face the challenges in future. So their voice need to be heard, and Plan believe amplifying those voices by working with young people, making sure they speak to the duty bearers and also the global community about it.
Yes, indeed. Actually, a lot of young people and young entrepreneurs are gravitating towards climate change and climate action. And this actually is a very good thing for from the climate perspective. So now this question is something that's very close to my heart, and I'm really excited to ask about it. So Plan has its own Youth Advisory Council, and I'm also one of its members. So Youth Advisory Council is not just about an advisory board. It helps Plan co-create its different strategies and put youth at the center of everything. So we just want to know, what is one important insight that you and your team have learned from our Youth Advisory Council? And has there been a moment where Youth Advisory Council has actually changed the way Plan approaches things?
So let me say by saying that when we talk to young people, that make us realize that probably we are too old for the solution that we're looking for. And that's also because we're still living in past many times. And the future is something that we need to take a journey together with young people and children that are going to be leading that journey. The second realization has been that we don't have all the answers as probably what we call is not so young people. But when I talk to Youth Advisory Council members and like you, I feel there's so much of energy and there's so much of innovation that comes in. And I really believe something that we are lacking in our generation is thinking on new solutions, new innovative ways of doing work that we do, and being challenged with things probably that we believe will be done this way. So one thing that really excites me of talking to young people is always challenging the status quo. Because status quo is very comfortable for people of our generation, where we feel, okay, things should be done this way. But young people have the ability and also courage to come forward and say it can be done differently. So that's one. And second, for plan, engagement of young people is so core to our work. Not only because we would like to be advised, as I said, advisory council is not for the advice, but also to challenge ourselves and say, are we doing the right thing? We've been in existence for more than 80 years as an organization. In Nepal, close to half a century, as you said. If we still live in the past, the way we used to do our work, it won't really be very appropriate and contextual. So young people can challenge us, and I really feel we need to be open to face those challenges and see young people as our partner in this journey, and we can find the right solutions. So thanks for raising it, and really look forward for Advisory Council and you to bring that thinking in our work so that we can be challenged on our thinking.
Thank you so much for saying that. I'm very glad to hear that from you. And I think our my fellow Youth Advisory Council members would be truly glad listening to this as well. So let's proceed to another question. Accountability is very, very important in development sector. So we just want to hear from you. How does Plan make sure that voices of the community, especially that of young people, are heard and valued as well as accounted for?
Yeah. And that's so core for what we do. I think the sector has evolved over the years. And I think there's much greater realization in international NGOs and NGOs working with community that we cannot only be seen as the providers, but we have an accountability to what we do. Yeah. So at Plan, accountability is at the core of our actions that we do at community level. So there are some compliance related accountability. So as part of our work in Nepal, we do regular social audit where we engage communities, diverse representation to look at our work and maybe comment and see how we can improve and where we have not done well. So that's one part of it. But second is there are different ways that we do our ensure that we have an accountability. So for namesake, we have an open telephone line where our program participants can reach out to Plan if they find anything which they are not comfortable with or they want to report any concern of Plan program. We also have open forum with our partners. We see our partners are our extended arms and equal in this journey. We also have regular engagement with our Youth Advisory Council to check whether we are doing the right things in our program. We also have project level advisory committees. We also do regular district level project advisory committee review and also central project advisory committee. So these are more compliance related thing, but I think accountability is not just the compliance. Yeah. So for me, it's much more believing in you being accountable for your actions. And then accountability, the other side of accountability is the power and control you have. And I feel if you're not rightly using your power, the accountability need to be in place to check to put those balances in place. Because if you're not using your power responsibly, you're not accountable. And as an organization, we can really quickly slip into that area where we feel we know everything and we are not open for feedback and communication that can come from our participants. So accountability for me personally, but as an organization Plan, we take it very seriously and we act on it. So for us, any feedback that we receive, we need to make sure that we have a closed loop to take it to the logical end and respond to it.
Absolutely. As a Youth Advisory Council member who has been engaged directly with Plan for almost 2 years now, I can also vouch for the accountability that it is showing, given how we are regularly consulted and we are heard as well. Now, let's proceed towards one of the most interesting section of the podcast. So I just want to share the experience that I've had when I went to Germany to attend the Global Youth Meetup. So there, we found out that Plan International had this whole set of completely different Plan language, full of jargons and terminologies that we've never heard of. So you know what they had to do when we were having our sessions? The youth engagement specialist there, she had to set up a whole different group chat and a live working document so that we could ask any jargons, any new jargons or any new terminologies that we heard. They were using terminologies like AOGD, jargons like ECD that we never even heard about.
Yeah.
But still, we're learning this development sector jargons and especially plan language. So now let's turn the tables for now. And I will ask you some of the Gen Z terms and see if you are familiar with them. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready, but thank you for reflecting on it, because very often we go into our jargons, which we only understand.
Yeah.
So thanks for reflecting on it.
Yeah, okay. So let's proceed. So my first question is no cap. Have you heard of the term?
No cap.
Yes.
Yes. Is it be yourself or no limits?
No, actually, it's no kidding. It's true. Something that's...
No kidding. So
yes.
I failed in it.
So, okay, I'll give you an example. So I go back to my Youth Advisory Council and I say, you know what? Actually, today I got to have a very insightful conversation with our country director. No cap. No kidding. It's true.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So,
So,
okay.
see, I failed. So which means I don't understand the Gen Z jargons.
Okay, let's try with another one.
Yeah.
So the next one is very popular among us. So it's called FOMO. Do you know what that means?
Yes, that I know. So it's called fear of missing out.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's something which I hear quite a lot.
Yes,
Even with my kids, I said.
Yes, I think my fellow Youth Advisory Council members will have that FOMO listening to our conversation today. Okay, the last one. I'll not torture you anymore. So the last one is woke. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I think this is quite in news now, woke culture, which has been seen as a bad thing. But for me, woke, as I understand, is being aware, socially and culturally aware, and believe in equality and justice.
Yes, that's very true. We here at Plan International are very, very woke.
Yeah.
Okay, now I guess we should also proceed towards a bit more serious part of the conversation. So Nepal government has its own amazing legal mechanisms, like it has its own JETSI policy, and then there is a proportionate representation system for women and marginalized communities in leadership spaces, ranging from local to federal government. And then recently the government also just announced its new program called Prime Minister's Daughter Independence Program. So looking at all these legal mechanisms, how do you reflect on Nepal's gender position, current gender status today, and what more can the government do to make sure that women are appropriately represented and their voices are amplified?
So if you ask me, Nepal has probably the most progressive policies and laws.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been to different countries. So I would say Nepal has really got the right intent of making sure that all parts of the society are represented, but also heard. So right policies, the right provision in the constitution. You talked about representation of women in the governance at local level, provincial and federal level.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely one thing to be commended. And I feel very proud when I go out at global gatherings within Plan, but outside, because that Nepal has really made the right move when it comes to the intent. There can be more done, but I'll just come to the other side of it. How do we make sure that those policies are translated on the ground? And sometimes there are different challenges, and those challenges probably are understood by government very well. But there is a need for those policies to be fully translated in spirit. So in letter it is there, but in spirit you need to make sure it's been done. And that's where organization like Plan can be a partner, where we can join government in delivering those on the ground, but young people to be also part of that journey. So if I just want to divide this, saying that very good intent, very good policy, but probably there are more efforts required to translate that on the ground.
That's very, very true. I think the major focus of Nepal government right now should be in terms of strategizing and implementing all the policies that it has on paper.
Now it's time for rapid fire round. In this round, I'll ask you a bunch of questions and you'll have to answer it without any second thought.
Sure.
Ready?
Yeah, ready.
Okay. The first question. What is the best age to learn about consent?
Yeah, I think as soon as possible. I think while we look at the legal age, it can be 18, but I think children at any time should learn about consent, what is good and bad, right at the early age.
Fair enough. So what is your go-to word? Equity or equality?
Equity.
Why so?
I believe equity is the right representation of making sure we provide everybody equal opportunity and provide them support needed for more affirmative actions. Because equality would mean that we treat everybody equal, but I think there are some people who need more support than others.
Fair enough. So if you could tattoo one plan value on your arms, what would it be?
It will be equality for girls.
That's very nice. So what's the most inspiring thing a young girl has ever told you?
I met a girl in Burma. She come from a minority community, and she told me that it was plan which supported her to come out of her home for the first time and speak in public. That was so transformational for her. We see this very small change, but for her it was a life-changing moment.
That sounds really beautiful. Okay, that's it for the rapid fire.
We are approaching the very end of our podcast. But before that, I just wanted to ask, since 2028 is approaching soon and fast, so we just want to hear, what hopes do you have for the future, and how this is going to be reflected on young girls, and how our young viewers listening to us today can participate in this movement?
Yeah, so, and I would say this is not only what plan will do, but I would say as a movement, and you use the word movement,
Yes.
because it has to be a movement. It can't be a project. So
Right.
what I normally refer to, that we cannot really put development into a projectized mode. So it has to be a movement and mission for everyone. And there we need partnership from everyone. So government cannot do it alone. Civil society cannot do it alone.
No.
And young people cannot do it alone. So it has to be a partnership with everyone. And the challenges are not only about policy framework. There are challenges which are more social and cultural. So when we talk about child forced early marriage, those are not only driven by, because there is no policy. There's already a law which prohibits any marriage below 20. But there's still ways that it happens, because there are cultural, social, and economic reasons. So how do we make sure we come together to address those core issues and drivers that are making this happen? Second, we need to provide more leadership to young people, especially girls. More often, that's what we believe, that girls often are the last one to be part of any decision-making process. So how do we make sure their voices are heard at family, community, and also at the governance level? So it's important that we bring all the stakeholders together and probably have a mission, which is a common mission that we can all work for.
Yes, that's, I think, a very beautiful ending note. As young people, I think it's very important that we show our commitment, not just in terms of words, but also in terms of action, to make a better future for ourselves as well. So this conversation has been highly insightful, and I certainly learned a lot from talking to you. And I hope our viewers will also be very excited to hear about this conversation, and will also be enlightened with all the things that we discussed today. Once again, thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Thank you, Smarika, and nice talking to you, and also learn some new language. Thank you.